I'm David Klingshirn. I'm the founder of the American Classical Music Hall of Fame here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Started in 1995, the concept of the American Classical Music Hall of Fame. It was at the 100th anniversary of the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra. And I was sitting there in the audience with Itzhak Perlman, Stolzmann, Rachmaninoff performing on stage, and conductors and Michael Keelan, Eric Kunzel, Keith Lockhart, Lois Kobos, and it was right at the time they were opening up the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland. And I thought, my God, the dichotomy of that versus what we have here. So I thought, gee, I wonder if there's a Classical Music Hall of Fame or if there's a Hall of Fame for people in classical music. And so that was the gem, or where it started, the concept. And I asked around, and I was just very fortunate to be in places where I made some good contacts, and it's been a very nice experience. And I think now that we're 10 to 15 years old or older, it's like a child. We've gone through the terrible twos, and we've gone through kindergarten, grade school, high school. So with the Walk of Fame, I see it as our debutante party. And I want Cincinnati, I want people in Vienna to think, oh gee, classical music, Cincinnati, Ohio. And this is one way we could become not only just outside of Cincinnati and nationally, but also internationally. I initially started out wanting just to recognize those people who have soared to the highest in classical music. But we also want to celebrate those people, and we want to educate the public about who these people are. The first couple of years, it seemed like everywhere I went, I had this on my forehead, let me talk to you about classical music. And that leads me into the medallion. Went to a cocktail party at Saks Fifth Avenue, and John Ruthven was there. John Ruthven is an internationally recognized wildlife artist. And where I went to high school, our symbol was the eagle. The eagle soars, is the king of the birds and it soars to the highest. And the people that we recognize are people who have soared to the highest. And since classical music is the king of music, so I said to John, is there something that you could do for me, a painting or something that we could present to people who are inducted into the Hall of Fame? And when he came up with the American Eagle on a lyre, it was just perfect. And I've had so many wonderful occasions. The first was in Atlanta. Robert Shaw was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he wasn't able to make it the first year to Cincinnati. And he said, would it be possible for you to come to Atlanta? I'd like to have the medallion or my induction in front of my own people, my own orchestra, my own choral group, my own audience. And so this was a month before he died. So we went to Atlanta, we went on stage, and when we took out this medallion, there were a couple thousand people in the auditorium. And most people, when they look at it, they'll go, ooh. But when you get a couple thousand people going, ooh, it just was really very nice. And then when we inducted Itzhak Perlman, he said it was right at the time of the Olympics. He said, I just feel like I won the Olympics. Yeah. And so I've had many wonderful occasions of presenting this medallion. One of the highlights was Marilyn Horne, her at San Francisco Opera. They did a tribute to her leaving, retiring from opera, and she was starting her tour of the United States in San Francisco, ending in New York. And Joan Sutherland, Dame Joan Sutherland, introduced David Klingshirn to this audience. And the name David Klingshirn will never be remembered by that audience, but she said Cincinnati, Ohio 2 or 3 times. But the highlight was, she said, I want to tell you about the Hall of Fame. She said they induct both posthumous and living. And Marilyn Horne jumped up out of her chair and she ran over and she grabbed her by the arm and she said, which category did they put me in? You know, and the audience roared, and so we had the audience. And of course, when Joan Sutherland walked out on stage, she got a standing ovation, and it was a wonderful time. So I've had many of those experiences since, and it's been very delightful. I believe in divine providence, and when our executive director Nina Perlove came to us, it was just like, hey, thank you, God, you know, we are going to succeed now, because she not only knows music, plays music, but she is also internet savvy. And she totally understood what my vision was for the Walk of Fame. And it was like, I felt like I was a quarterback. I threw the ball to her and she ran down the field with it. So I'm just very pleased where we are right now. I think good things happen slowly, and so we needed these first 15 years to grow. And I think our debutante party will be the opening of the Walk of Fame in Washington Park. People will take notice of us, and people will be proud of themselves, proud of Cincinnati, proud of classical music.